let's get on to the 25-26 estimates. I'm going to go to Chloe Silver.
So, Minister, you've spoken quite a lot about our levels of public debt. I'm interested in the correlation to private debt in particular. So I guess just as a starter for 10, could you tell us what the level of private or household debt is currently in this country?
I don't have that number to hand, but of course we know what the contributors are to private debt. On the one hand, what is critically important is that incomes are able to keep up with prices. We have been through a period in New Zealand history in which inflation has far exceeded wage increases, with the impact that people's real wage position across many households reduced, and that of course can lead to debt accumulation. There are also choices which individual households and families make about the level of savings that they maintain. But a key contributor to private debt in New Zealand, which I know you are conscious of, is housing affordability. And what we know in New Zealand is that we have been through a period in history when house price increases have been significant and have outpaced wage growth, meaning that many households have had to take on more debt in order to have housing security. And I will never forget the year in which you and I sat as opposition members around this table, in which house prices increased 30% in 1 year under a Labour government. In terms of contribution to debt positions, that was very significant.
Okay, I really appreciate quick back and forth with noting that there's obviously a lot to unpack in all of these, but just to be really clear for the record, household debt as a percentage of household nominal disposable income at December 2024 was 169%. Can you tell me your understanding of the differential between the kind of cost of debt servicing for a household versus for the government?
Well, debt servicing, of course, has a very real cost. In the case of the government, the interest bill on New Zealand's debt will be rising from 9 to more than 12 billion over the forecast period. $9 billion is a difficult figure to conceive, so to give you a sense of it, that would be enough to fund the annual operating costs of the following functions combined: the New Zealand Police Force, the New Zealand Defence Force, the New Zealand Customs Service, the entire New Zealand Prison Service, and the entire Ministry of Justice. So that interest bill is significant, and there is an opportunity cost for each of those dollars, which would otherwise have been able to be invested in public services.
So to answer my own question, household debt servicing was 10.3% of households' disposable income, which is 5 times higher than government debt servicing. Do you accept that debt servicing costs for government is 5 times lower, therefore, than it is for private households?
I think that the member should bear in mind that one of the things that New Zealanders look to the government for is a sense of security that were there to be a significant economic shock, be that a major climatic event, a biosecurity incursion, a significant earthquake, they would want the government to be in a position where it could undertake borrowing that households may not be able to undertake in order to buffer against shocks. We have seen that following the Christchurch earthquake with the wage protections that were put in place. We saw that during COVID with the wage and business support payments that were put in place. So to some extent, I think it is the expectation of New Zealand households that the government maintain prudent enough levels of debt that it can be there on the rainy day. And I think that that balance is appropriate.
What do you think it says about debt in general, the fact that Standard & Poor's increased or upgraded our credit rating during COVID-19 when we increased debt by 20%?
Well, I think that that reflects the fact that countries around the world were in difficult positions at that time. But I would note that we simply cannot take our credit rating for granted. There are two observable factors which credit rating agencies are watching very closely in New Zealand's case. The first is the historic size of our current account deficit, and the second is our ongoing deficit and debt positions, which have slipped successively in recent years. And that rating matters not just to us because of our debt servicing costs and therefore our ability to borrow globally, but also the run-on effect it has for every New Zealander with debt, who will find that their interest bill is higher if there is a credit rating downgrade. So the government's decisions on its management of its own fiscal position have real and material effects for New Zealanders. I do empathise with the member's concern, which is that New Zealanders who are carrying high levels of debt face a financial burden. The question is, how does the government best address that? And it is my philosophical view that the best way that we address that is create the economic conditions in which New Zealanders can have more secure jobs, can face greater wage increases, are in an environment of stable inflation, are in an environment where interest rates aren't so high that their debt servicing becomes unbearable. And all of those factors go to good economic management. And overwhelmingly, it is countries that are wealthier, it is countries that have grown faster, that are better able to provide the choices and opportunities for individuals and households that allow them to have more comfortable debt positions.
And indeed, what much of the international commentary will tell us is that our structural deficit comes from our tax distortions, and also the point that SNP has made about that upgrade was to do with the credibility, predictability and transparency of government spending plans. So I guess the kind of factual then, why do you believe that Standard & Poor's downgraded our councils in terms of their credit ratings in March? What did they tell us?
Well, the commentary, which I don't have to hand, as I recall, reflected the fact that they had concerns about the ways that some of our councils are managing their debt position, are making choices about their investments and their deficit positions.
What they told us was that it was the revocation of the government's Tree Waters program and the fact that our councils do not have the revenue necessary to meet their mandate. But I guess I just wanted to get to the core point, which is that, do you understand?
I don't accept that assertion, by the way.
Well, that is what Standard & Poor's said in their own report. So do you understand that investment in our infrastructure in particular and in our public sector capacity can improve our resilience and reduce the impact of entirely predictable shocks, whether they be, for example, environmental shocks or otherwise?
Yes, I do, which is why the government is committed to ongoing infrastructure investment and resilience and productivity enhancing investments. I would also point out the corollary, which that member tends to forget, which is that every dollar of infrastructure investment that the government makes is ultimately, and I'll just finish my answer if I can, Mr. Chair, is ultimately funded by taxpayers. Taxpayers pay us either today, providing tax to the government that would otherwise be their own income, or taxpayers tomorrow who are required to pay off debt when it becomes unmanageable. Now, If we were to tax New Zealanders more, and I recognise that that is the member's position, I believe she wishes to add $44 billion worth of taxes to New
91% of
Zealanders.
New Zealanders pay less
The
income
impact
tax.
of that for individual New Zealanders would be to reduce their financial choices, resilience and security. More to the point, I believe putting that level of additional tax on our economy at this moment in our economic recovery would put that recovery at risk, therefore jeopardising the jobs and incomes of every working Kiwi.
Are you familiar with this IMF report that came out last week on our productivity challenges?
I have not reviewed that report as yet.
If I were to tell you that what was identified by the International Monetary Fund with regard to our real structural challenges around our productivity are to do with capital misallocation, that is that we are seeing a lot of our money currently being invested in real estate, in our infrastructure deficits and in low innovation, particularly as a result of a lack of government investment in R&D and in research. Would that resonate with your understanding of the world and our productivity challenges?
I think you've seen in our recent budget this government's tenacious willingness to address the fact that New Zealand needs greater rates of capital intensity and productivity enhancing investments in our firms. That is precisely why we introduced the investment boost policy to provide a genuine tax incentive for firms to make investments in capital, which will enhance their ability to be more productive and to grow faster. It is also why we have identified, as have several IMF and OECD reports, that one of the factors leading to New Zealand's low rates of capital intensity is the fact that we have a very restrictive set of rules when it comes to foreign direct investment, and in fact, very low rates of foreign direct investment when compared to other countries that we like to compare ourselves with. It is simply the case that countries that better allow foreign capital to flow into their firms and productive sectors are better able to reach the levels of capital intensity that lead to greater productivity and wage growth. So that is why the government is both reforming the Overseas Investment Act and introducing Invest New Zealand to ensure that we are better able to capture cash from around the world looking for a home. Because if that cash can help create better New Zealand jobs and better New Zealand incomes, we should be rolling out the welcome mat, not putting out the stop sign.
Last supplement.
May I
we'll
ask
move on.
why you choose to cherry pick and overblow one particular variable with regard to, for example, the access to international capital when the IMF, the OECD and a range of international players have consistently pointed out that the biggest barrier to productive investment in this country is our tax distortions, which see money flowing into housing?
I disagree with the member's characterisation, and I could equally accuse you of cherry picking. The most recent OECD report on the New Zealand economy was very clear about two things that we should be doing right now. One, undertaking fiscal consolidation in the face of deteriorating books and
Which we can do from the
significant
revenue side.
demographic challenges, and two, focusing on productivity enhancing and growth enhancing reform. That is exactly what the government is doing, and I'm happy with the economic choices we are making.
I
Okay,
strongly
thank you.
disagree with that.
Thank
but
you. I'll go to our deputy.
Okay, so before we get to some serious stuff, I have gone and find out if the phone number 0800 Rennie is available. And we have some bad news. So the phone number is 0800 736 639, which is RENNEY, which is the vaccination health line for the Ministry of Health.
Oh, okay.
I just thought I'd point that out. Don't go Rennie on 0800 Rennie ain't gonna work.
No, well, I mean, you might get vaccination advice. Shoot. Yeah.
But I thought that would just be something that we could actually have a bit of a laugh about.
Yes. I'm just
Don't
downloading.
go Rennie, but unfortunately 0800 Rennie will take you into the Ministry of Health vaccination line.
I'm just downloading a copy of the OECD Economic Outlook report because I think it'd be a very fun read. But I know people like I know there's one particular individual, I will not name names, but they keep saying, "Oh, I hope you'll be hard on Chloe as well." Yeah, I think Chloe might have got her numbers wrong when it comes to New Zealand private debt as a percentage to nominal GDP. I'm not quite sure what number she's referring to, but the chart that I've got access to, all the stats. Now, to be fair, this is from July last year, so take it with a grain of salt. Debt may have gone up. But what I've got here is that the percentage of debt, private debt to nominal GDP, and by the way, Nikki should know this, right? Nicola should know this data. She should have this data on hand. It's about 136%. So that's gone up. Private debt has gone up since this coalition has come in. Private debt was actually on the way down when the Labour Greens and Labour Green coalition was in.
Yeah, funny that.
So people go, "Oh yeah, why are you not grilling Chloe?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I will point out if there's something wrong, and I expect people to do this with me as well. By the way, if you get something wrong, you get corrected."
And I also wonder when she uses her figure of 5 to 1,
Yep.
is she using the figure of households are spending 5 times as much money, 5 times more on servicing their personal household debt than servicing the government's debt.
That's why I've
Via
downloaded
taxes.
That's why I've downloaded the OECD report, because I'm hoping that maybe she got the
It
numbers
has
from
a
there.
set of numbers that actually help make some more sense.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up now. See if that's in the report. Come on. Here we go. Private debt. Are those numbers there? Okay, so I don't know where Chloe's got her numbers from. It would have been really helpful to know where she got that from, because I can't find it in the OECD report. So just you know, I will say things like I will go. I don't know where this data is from. I'd like to know where that data is from, even if it comes from my side of the fence, right?
Yep. Yes, that is good. Not like the people who don't want to hear you say that. They will conveniently ignore it.
Yep. Because at the end of the day, right, I'm a libertarian and I hate everyone. No, it's just joking. I don't hate everyone. But you know, I'm naturally skeptical of central government. So I like to make sure that, you know, we're working with accurate figures here, so we're making the best policies possible.
Yep. And I love what Shaz has just put on there.
Yeah, that's what we do. We love correcting each other.
Yeah. Most of us do.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.